everyone, this is Susan Mattern with What's Happening Chesco, and I am here with Allie Mazza with Brandywine Concierge Senior Services.
Hi.
And we're just going to talk about a little bit about nursing care and home care for the elderly and the whole COVID, because this is kind of the segue to everything that happened. So Allie, can you tell me a little bit about why you got into this business and being self-employed?
Sure. Yeah. So, like you said, my business is Brandywine Concierge Senior Services. And what I do is I help families that are really at that crossroads where they know that something maybe needs to change for usually their parents or their loved ones. So I work usually with adult children that are between the ages of, they call them like the sandwich generation. They have kids at home and they're also caring for their aging parents. And it might be something like, oh, we've just noticed that dad is isolating at home, or that he's not as social as he used to be. Or it could be something like mom had a fall, she's now in a short-term rehab and we need placement for her immediately, or home care. So really my company is aimed at addressing that crisis time, or that time where you're at this crossroads. And because there are so many different options, there's in-home care, there's personal care, assisted living, continuing care, retirement communities. It's really, really hard when you're in a crisis to deal with that thoughtfully when you don't have a background in it. And I oftentimes will compare myself sort of to the work that you do as a realtor, because I would never buy a house without a realtor. I don't know that market well enough. I don't know the industry well enough. And I really always felt like if I'm going to buy a home, I need an expert on my side. So in comparison, when you are looking for a place for your loved one to live, and they have care needs now, and this might be the last move they make, it's really, really important to make a good decision. So the majority of what I do for folks is help them walk through the process of selecting a senior living community, whether it's an independent living community, a 55 and older, or if they're looking for something more advanced, if they need memory support or whatever it might be. That being said, I picked the name Brandywine Concierge because I want people to feel like they can call me with whatever they need. So I had somebody call me yesterday and she needed some support on how to talk to her dad about bringing in-home care. And we walked through it for about an hour and I talked to her about all the approaches that might work best. And then I also connected her with a couple home care companies that I really know and trust. So I got into this business. I started as an in-home caregiver when I was in college. After my graduate school, I moved to Maryland and I opened a community as an activities director and worked, my entire career now, pretty much in senior living, with the exception of about 6 months that I did in real estate, which I think I learned so much from as far as marketing. But my true calling has always been working with seniors and their families. So most of my time in my career was spent as a sales and marketing director. So I was the one that if you came into a senior living community and wanted more information, I was going to give you the tour and go through the pricing structure and walk you through that process. But what I would see is that people would come in, and even if I knew that from everything they shared with me, mom or dad would really fit in well at the community down the road, it was my job to sell them on the community that I was in. And I saw people coming in so flustered and overwhelmed because this is such a complicated move to be making, and it's not for you, it's for the person that raised you. So there's all this baggage that I thought, I really want to be that person that they can go to that's an unbiased but very educated and informed person that comes from inside the industry that can walk them through it and be almost like I sometimes say like a unbiased sister. Because so often I'm dealing with the adult daughter. So sort of like an unbiased sister or another daughter. So everything I do for my clients is free. I have contracts with all the communities in the area, and it's a really seamless process. I help my clients narrow down their community options to usually about 4. And then we tour them together. I help them with anything that they need in between the whole process. Movers, if they need a downsizer, if they need an elder law attorney, I can connect them with that and coordinate that and make sure the move goes well. And then once the person is in the community, I do a 60-day follow-through program just to make sure that things are still going well. So for all that service, the communities are more than happy to pay me for that because it's an added value for their client. So nothing I do costs my clients anything. So I started the business in August of last year after, like I said, working as a sales and marketing director and just feeling like there needs to be somebody, I need to fill this gap for people. And it's been going really, really well. So I'm thrilled to do it. I love being able to build the business myself and the way that I would want to be taken care of if I were a family member. and also make the rules myself. So I don't have any set territory. I'll go wherever people need me to go. I don't have any set hours. I'll work whenever people need me to work. And there's really no limit to what I will do. So if somebody needs, I have a woman right now that's looking for a HUD, like a subsidized community. I don't contract with subsidized communities because they don't typically they don't have the money to pay for somebody like me. But it's the right thing to do, and I'm having fun helping her. So I'll help anybody that calls.
Right, it's referral too. Like you don't know.
Oh yeah,
he knows
sure, totally. And when I started the business, one thing that was super important to me was that when I started and focused in on my goals, I didn't want them to be commission goals. I didn't want them to be move-in goals, like numbers driven. I wanted it to be about people. So this chain that you can see behind me here in my office, I decided to set a goal of helping 220 families before. I set it in October, and it's going until this coming October. 220 families within that year span. And I didn't care if they were local, if they made me any money, like it doesn't matter. As long as I'm, providing help and I'm a resource for them, then I put a link in the chain. So I think we're at 115. So right over the halfway mark, and that's right on target. Wow. So it's going well. Yeah, no, and I really, really love it.
So do you add to the chain or do you take away from the chain?
I add to the chain.
Okay.
Yeah. So I write each person's name on one link and the date. Yeah.
That just gives me
fun.
a great idea.
I'm very visual. So for me, it's like, as I see this thing growing back here and I have to like add another loop to it or whatever, it's very much, and each chain has like a story behind it for me too. So I'll write some little notes or, right. And of course I have a database where I keep track of people, but this way I can go and look and be like, oh, that's right. I forgot that we had that whole time that we spent together.
Well, it's funny because I'm always writing down everybody that I've done from day one. Cause like right now I'm sending out like my CMAs for everybody that bought a house for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to send them out because this is what I was trying to come up with, all these ideas. I'm still going to go forward with it because I think it's a great just tool to have for people on an annual basis. Just get that chain going.
Yeah.
This is something I think I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, okay, just already sent this person, this person, this person. And then that way, and I'll figure something out to know like, okay, in a year, I need to,
I want to get to the point where, like I made it very well known. I told everybody, hey, listen, I'm going to do this chain. Here's the stack of papers. I mean, I cut 220 of them over here that I have in, my office. And I said, this is my goal. And so I have some people that are like accountability partners. I had a friend, she lives in Pittsburgh, and the other day she's like, so how many links are we at right now? Keeping me on track, because people don't forget visuals like that either. So every now and then I'll do a video on Facebook, just checking in and like showing how big the chain is now. Cause it's a representation of the business growing. So
right.
I love it.
So the second question I have for you is, how was your business doing pre-COVID, like March 18th?
Business, January and February were awesome for me. And we see that in my industry a lot, that after the holidays, there's a spike in inquiries as far as senior living goes, because what happens is you spend Christmas or New Year's or whatever, Thanksgiving, with your loved ones, and you start to notice little things that you maybe hadn't seen before, differences in like hygiene or cognition, memory, looping with conversation, all those little things that you're like, oh, maybe mom isn't doing as well as I thought she was. And for folks that are coming into town and really this is like the first time they're seeing a loved one for a while, that's usually a trigger. And or the family's coming together and they decide they're going to have a family conversation about what's next. So usually after the holidays, we see a spike. And it was as predicted. January and February, and not just for me, but for my industry, were really good months in general.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
So did you, like having all this time on our hands, like, did you implement or you seem like a very innovative person. Did you innovate some ideas to going forward with all the crazy, thank God I wasn't listening to the news. I think I'm listening to the news more than I did in the beginning because it was very depressing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? We don't know which way to go. And then hearing all this stuff about nursing homes, is there something that you implemented all this time sitting here? Like, what can I do with my business in case we have another, hopefully we don't, but we have something else that happens that I can, or even things that you have to put in place. Like me, now I'm back at work. I have to wear a mask. I have to bring sanitizing wipes. So there's different things that I have to do. Everybody's selling their like Long and Foster or you know, their logo face mask.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's
I'm not
cool,
gonna do
but you know.
Yeah, I think so. A couple things. First of all, I think not just me, but everyone in my industry has taken this time to really help educate people on, number one, the vulnerability of the population that we serve, but also number two, the differences in the levels of care. Because when you hear Governor Wolf and Dr. Levine on you know, their lives or whatever, and talking about like the number of cases or deaths in senior living, or they'll say skilled nursing or whatever, they're clustering everything together. And so that's nursing homes, skilled nursing homes, that's personal care communities, that's independent living communities, retirement communities. They're clustering it all together. And what people are hearing, rightfully so, is that it's not safe to live in a senior environment, which is completely not true. If you actually look at the numbers are so much higher in a skilled nursing facility than they are in personal care, assisted living, independent living, all of that. And the reason being because those people may have already had COVID when they were discharged to a skilled nursing. Now skilled nursings have to accept those patients. They're also in closer quarters, so a lot of times they're in a companion room. They're not in their own private space. There's also a lot of numbers that if you look at dementia populations, it's much, much harder to quarantine and isolate people with dementia because they don't have an understanding of why. So for example, if somebody is in a skilled nursing facility and they have dementia, the caregiver or the staff member actually has to sit outside of the room, and anytime that person tries to exit seat, they have to redirect them back into the apartment or the room in the skilled nursing facility and change their PPE. So a lot of times people were like, what's happening with all this PPE in these skilled nursing homes? Why are they going through so much? Well, that's why, because 8 times an hour, this woman is trying to figure out why she can't come out of this room, and they're directing her and she's COVID positive. So a lot of what we've been doing is education about, listen, yes, you're right. There is a huge risk in skilled nursing right now. And we really need to support them and give them resources that they need and have their backs. But there's also a huge difference between that and personal care or assisted living, which have very low instances of cases. And a lot of them that have positive cases are asymptomatic or have recovered. So for clients that I have coming to me right now, they're like, well, should we wait or should we act right now? Because we really have an emergency or an urgent need, I should say. But is it safe? And so a lot of it's education. That being said, people still need senior living communities. They're not safe to return home after a fall, which has always been the case. And that's not stopped happening. That's still happening.
Exactly.
So people that have a need where they can't return safely to home, even with home care, still need senior living. So I'm still getting a lot of inquiries, and people are understanding that times are different and we're working around it. So you asked about kind of like innovation and stuff. I've been doing a ton of like 3-way FaceTime tours with my client, myself, and then a representative at the community that'll walk us through so that we kind of have a virtual understanding of the space. Because I'm in these places all the time, it's really important right now for me to get to know my client super well, because I'm now narrowing it down to these 4 places with the understanding that that person's going to fit in well once we open and there's more interaction. So since we can't tour and see residents because the residents may be in their apartments, it's important that I know the personality of the community and can match that ahead of time. One thing is the virtual tours, but the second thing is that I put together an additional, I call it like a client profile that I have my clients fill out in addition to the conversation and intake call that I do, that really has them like laser focused, since I can't go out and do an assessment anymore of these residents, has them really like laser focus on the personality of their loved one, what's going to feel comfortable for them, what role might they have in a community, what's going to be the hardest part of the transition for them and for their parent, so that there's this added level of understanding between myself, the client, and the community. So that's kind of how I found some workarounds. I mean, it's not ideal, but everybody kind of understands that nothing right now is the way that
we're all kind of figuring it out right now.
Yeah, but it's working. And people are still being admitted. I'm trying really hard to stay on top of, because it's changing day to day, what communities are admitting. If you have a positive case, then you might not be admitting for a certain number of days. And then which ones are kind of what their protocols are. So I'm sort of staying on top of that so that if people need urgent placement, we can still make it happen.
Gotcha. So where could someone find you? What's your website? Do you have a do you have a website? And
I do. Yep. We just launched a brand new website, so much more user friendly. Also on the website, there's a toolkit that you can download that kind of walks you through all the process of, okay, something's probably going to change in the next year or two for my parent. What are the options? And it's not just communities, it's also home care, all that, hospice, PTOT, all that stuff. So you can download that for free on the website. It's just brandywineconcierge.com. Most people actually find me through Facebook because we have really active social media. We're really trying to focus on providing resources on there. And there are two groups that I have through the Brandywine Concierge Facebook. One is for people that also serve seniors, so realtors that maybe have that senior real estate specialist designation and they want to target that population, or work with the people that are in this industry. And then another group that's for resources for aging parents. So that's for people that are either my client or might need that type of resource. You can find those on there too.
Awesome. Well, I thank you very much for doing this short little interview. And
Sure.
Basically, this is all for helping small business owners, especially in this crisis time, and getting everybody's names out there, because once we open up and we're in green again and we're hopefully in normal status, as normal as it can be, we can all rock and roll and start making some money again and feeding our families and all that good stuff. So I'm happy to let everybody know that real estate's back. And, so if anybody's looking to buy a house or sell their house, please give me a call. Phone number, well, it'll be on the Facebook. Reach out to me. Let's Open Doors, Susan Mattern. So that's my bell. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Susan.
So much.
You bet.
All right, cool.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. You can.